Well, good day, YouTube viewers. I've got a subject that I wanted to address, and maybe I can get some feedback on it, maybe not. Who knows? It's unusual for me to do any kind of video in this particular setting, but I've been so busy I didn't want to neglect it. I wanted to address it for sure. Um, Things get under my skin, and what I've noticed most is uh, a new dialect in the United States, maybe even Western Hemisphere, and it doesn't have a name yet. Some people would refer to it as woke speech, and I suppose it started with people in California, maybe liberals. I don't know. It really doesn't matter at this point. It's a trend that's spreading, and it's a dialect. It's a new dialect in the United States, if not Western Hemisphere, um, and it stems from people not pronouncing their T's. So if someone sees a little cat, they say, "Oh, what a cute little kitten," or "I am going on vacation in the mountains." That's considered a glottal T. That is actually, it has a definition. And the glottal T is used a lot in England, Ireland, Scotland. And I have a suspicion that maybe, just maybe, this glottal T is being picked up from movies or television shows. So the first thing that really comes to mind, I've never really watched it, but Game of Thrones, maybe. I don't know. And we have a lot of more British media than we used to. But I think this is going to be a permanent change in the way people speak. It bothers me, but it shouldn't. I immediately stereotype when I hear this sort of language to like an entitled liberal snob, and that is not correct, and it is not accurate. But it's what my mind tells me. I've paired that. So pairing is one of the most basic mental functions, not just of humans, but of anything in the animal kingdom. You drive a beat up pickup truck along a farm fence and honk the horn, and the cows are going to come running. That's what we do when our brains pair something with an action, and the action at this point being the use of a glottal T most times. And this new dialect, at some point, it's going to have a name. But myself, upon reflection, should not be stereotyping people that use a glottal T. It's a new dialect that we have to learn to accept and not be bothered by it, because it's going to be used more and more and more. I would say it started in California, and it's spreading, it's expanding. It seems like it was initially used by liberals, which everybody can define liberal, and don't tell me you can't define a woman. Everybody knows what a woman is. But it is expanding. People of all social groups are using this sort of pronunciation, which is going to, I know it, and I'll tell you now, it's going to evolve into a dialect, which, if it hasn't already, it will. Let's talk about dialects in the United States. In the 70s and 80s, you had jive. That was a dialect. It didn't stick. It faded. In the 80s and 90s, you had ebonics. Didn't stick. Faded. and 90s, 2000s, you had Spanglish still being used in certain areas. Not as much, but yeah, still being used. Now we've got this new Glottal T pronunciation, dialect, whatever you want to call it. It will be a dialect. But it hasn't been really identified or addressed yet. When it gets addressed and identified more widely by hopefully linguists, they will actually pinpoint it and give it a name. I'm curious to know what the name's going to be. I want to know. That way I can at least identify it. You know, if you don't know what to call something, and I don't want to be the one to assign it a title, you want to have a name for that so that you can categorize it in your little brain. But I wanted to address it and just question, hey, does anybody know, anybody that watches this video, do you know a linguist? And do we know who assigns these names and identities? I mean, I would think that it would start in the educational field, you know, college professors, mainly. That's usually where these identities and definitions begin and are then distributed throughout society. But it piques my curiosity, and I did a deep dive into it, and that's when I learned the Glottal T, and yes, it actually has a definition, that particular part of the pronunciation. There's others. People are announcing or pronouncing the G's at the end of the sentence. I went running. It's just we're in a time of change for sure. And the speech change, I think people in society want to have control over a change, and this is something that they can control and they can change. So it is what it is. I am not going to change my pronunciation, but if someone does, we as good Christian people should understand and accept those changes. If someone wants to make a change in the way that they pronounce words, that is their right. They can do that, right? We can make whatever pronunciations we want to make. You won't find any changes in the spelling, though, I assure you that. I don't know who has control over that. You know, several millennia ago, it was the Romans, and you couldn't convince them hardly nothing. But they did develop our math system, our numbers, our calendar, our spelling. So, yeah, here we are, post-modern. Is that what it is? Modern Roman. Welcome to the new age. Anyway, please comment below and tell me what you think. Tell me if you know a linguist, if you are a linguist, and fill me in on this, because I like to know. I like to be in the know. I'm curious about the change in our society, in our language. It stems my curiosity, I guess is the best way to put it. But hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for your time. And post. See ya.